films in I don't know 15 countries or something, and he's known for his ability to do nature and to do tremendous stuff he does on National Geographic and Discovery. Spends 4 months a year up in Alaska, and we're lucky to have him for 8 months here. He's involved in a number of local things that he's very charitable, and he also is involved in something called Silver Springs International Film Festival, of which I'm honored to be serving with him on the board, and that would be Mark Emery. Hi, Mark.
Steve, how's it going today?
It would be better if your microphone was on. Is it on now? Okay.
This one?
Let's see.
All right.
Okay, got one? Okay, you're good.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you again, Mark.
Good to see you too, buddy.
Good to see you every now and then at the meeting on the film. But today I want to go over a couple of things. We've done a lot of interviews on this program, and you've had some adventures in your life. I thought to myself, I wonder if Mark's getting to that point where maybe he might want to just live a little less on the wild side. And I mean wild in the best sense, not in the Willie Nelson side, but the nature wild side. And you've been all over the place in woods and waters and things. And every now and then, does Ocala look to a place like you, like he sort of like to kind of back down to and say, let me teach students how to shoot? What's the deal on that? How do you feeling about that right now?
Well, I know in the future I won't be able to do what I'm doing now because it's so physically difficult and taxing. I work out all the time just trying to stay in shape to stay up with the younger guys. But this, the last shoot, I was swimming upside down underneath a rattlesnake at 18 inches and you could see his tongue flicking out and all this stuff right over my head as I'm swimming, and had an American crocodile hit me pretty good with the tail, give me a good lick. And so I'm still able to kind of crank around and get over these guys and get some nice shots. But there's a time when you're going to slow it. I mean, just we're all, running down that race as fast as we can. So I'm really looking forward to doing a lot of things around Ocala. Get older, you bet.
And we want to get to that before this interview's over, about some things that you've got on your scope, your radar right now. But today I want to make it a point to go back over some stories that you've told us over the years. And for those who haven't heard these, I think they'll get a kick out of them. Much of them involve you and water someplace and wild animals. And the one thing I've never asked you, I don't think, maybe we've talked around it, but we all think of the crocodile man, and what happened to him and the danger. And it was only then that we realized that this was a dangerous deal. We see these shows on TV, these near misses and these death-defying acts, and yet there's evidence to show that this is a lot more dangerous than we realize. And you've had some brushes with that.
Yeah, it's not a well-known thing because, of course, the stations don't want you people knowing what's going on out there. So I've had I crawled down alligator dens, and at the bottom of the den there were 6 alligators. Well, you think that would have been the problem?
Mark, wait. Why in the world would you crawl down? What were you thinking about, Mark?
Well, most of the things that we know about animals are what we tell each other and what other people have told us. I mean, how fast does a lion run? Who actually measured that and was sure that's what the speed of that animal was?
I'm going to just believe them.
Right, exactly. So
I don't want to
people
find
that
out.
are in our business don't believe. They go down and take a look. So, what I had heard always, that alligators bring their young down into a den, and that's that. Stuck my head down in there, and that's not what was going on. And I was with a biologist who knew about this as well. So we were off an island off of Savannah, Georgia, and these dens, because of low water, were exposed. So you could look down in that den and shine a light down there and see them. So I crawled down just barely my feet were sticking out. And there were 6 alligators, and all they did was hiss. They didn't do anything. I had a little stick with me. If they came up, just push them off. And my wife even went in and took a look. And we got on back out, and we did 3 or 4 other ones. Well, I got ticks and nearly died from Lyme disease. I did not suspect of having Lyme disease in Savannah, Georgia.
Didn't see that one.
And actually, I talked to a guy at Georgia Southern, said, "Oh yeah, it's here, and it's been here for a long time." And they even think maybe the Lyme actually started in the South and went to Connecticut and all that, the northern sections, being carried by birds. And so I did a lot of investigation on it. But it is hazardous anytime you do wildlife stuff, and there's hunter and fisherman types that get in trouble out in the wild just as much as a filmmaker. But we do push the edge a little bit more because you have to get close-up shots. You have to figure out how to immerse yourself in the story without getting really in the middle of it and getting in trouble with some of these species like grizzly bears and wolves and things like that. So,
well, there's a saying in golf, the sort of golf zen, be the ball, you know what I mean?
Right.
You kind of adopt that theory when you're shooting, let's say, wild deer. You have to become the deer, don't you?
Well, in my world, what I have found that if I want to get natural behavior, I have to get them to accept me as a part of what's going on. So I don't actually, go around and graze with them or anything like that. It hasn't got to that level. But I'll sit there without advancing on them. And so they're really alert to anything that's coming up on them. It's like stalking. It's like something, it's going to attack. So I just get in the area where they are. I just sit down, and sometimes I'll wait for 6 or 8 hours and just sit right there. And sometimes they'll be all around me. I'll have 15, 20 deer around me. Sometimes I won't see anything for 2 or 3 hours. But they know right where I am. And we've done this with moose first and spent 70 days with moose. In the last 2 weeks, I was swimming with them. I'd get underwater and swim and film them eating off the bottom or, just whatever. And I don't think that had ever been done before. And we actually laid the camera right next to the moose as she was nursing her calves. Well, everybody will tell you that a moose cow will kill you if you get anywhere near a calf. And if you don't take the time to really get to know them, yeah, they will.
So there's something to, like, we like to feed birds. I don't think you feed animals too much.
I certainly don't feed any predators ever.
Right. But birds, I mean, we do put bird seed
Sure,
out.
we do
and
that
we
too.
love to watch them, and they come. And I noticed that over the years since we fed them that, like, we can open the glass door and sit there and talk, and they don't care.
Right.
They don't feel threatened. Mm-hmm. So you become part of their environment. Is that what it is?
Well, you also look and watch their triggers and their keys. They have them just like we do. If you get inside somebody's space, you get uncomfortable. Animals have a distance. Grizzly bears in the spring, when I first get there, it's a half mile. Then it's a quarter mile. Then they're having to feed right next to another bear that they may not like all that much. And so that distance changes. So you watch. The ears pin, the hair pops up just like cats and dogs. A lot of the information that they're giving you is the same. But you better take note of what you're seeing, and if it's time to back away and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to do that. We never run, we never turn and run away or anything. Like, we just walk backwards and looking at them and talking to them, and then leave the area if they're acting up.
So don't run if you see a grizzly
or a black bear. It's a dog chasing a mailman kind of thing. They oh boy, this is fun. I can run and he can't.
Yeah, and so to compensate, no quick movements when you're
and we'll there's all kinds of tricks you can do when you're around them for a long period of time, but we don't usually share those with other people because you would do it only in certain situations.
Right. Mark Emery's our special guest. He'll be with us for hopefully another 30 minutes or so, if he's got the time, even to the point of getting to play our little game called Fake or Factoid, taking Tom Schmitz on and beating the what out of him in the game. And I want to get back to a story about Mark crashing in an airplane up somewhere around Alaska.
This
and
is
many
such
other
a good story.
Other adventures of Mark Emery. You should have a book called Adventures of Mark Emery. And Mark and Mary Emery, I should say, because she's been at a bunch of them too. Yes. And then we got to get to the things of today where we're going to talk about your local involvement. I know you're doing some things at the Springs, and your involvement with the Silver Springs International Film Festival, and your friend Jordy Klein, people like that. We'll talk about anything and everything coming up next with Mark Emery. Stay tuned to the Voice of Ocala.
1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
Since 1976, Daniel L. Hightower, a lawyer, has been fighting for accident victim justice in North Central Florida and statewide. He believes everyone in America should follow the rules, including the insurance companies. He and his firm have experience fighting for victims of personal injury, wrongful death, workers' compensation, and Social Security disability, as well as serving those in need of help with bankruptcy, simple wills, and estate plans. The mission at the law offices of Daniel L. Hightower, PA, is to represent deserving clients and recover the maximum benefits they are entitled to by law in a timely manner. In personal injury and workers' compensation cases, there are no fees or costs unless a recovery is made. The law office of Daniel L. Hightower is located at 7 East Silver Springs Boulevard, Suite 300. For your free consultation, call 352-629-7777 or 1-888-LAW-1976 and visit danhightower.com for more information. Daniel L. Hightower, PA lawyer, fighting for accident victim justice, and the proud sponsor of Ask the Cops.
This reprise of Ask the Cops is proudly brought to you by Daniel L. Hightower, PA lawyer, fighting for accident victim justice since 1976.
Being out of the mall is actually pretty nice because we've got a resource center out there, and in that resource center we've got a program called Seniors versus Crime. And it's been out there since 2007, and in that period of time they've recovered over $354,000 of money back to crime victims. This past year, they helped 75 people get back about $90,000 worth of crime, and $90,000 worth of money, worth of funding. and mainly it's these cyber crimes or scams that people run. Our elderly citizens get involved in it. They go out there and they're volunteers that actually do it, and they do the investigation.
Make sure to tune in to Ask the Cops on WOCA, The Source. Dr. Seaborn Hunt, a board-certified ophthalmologist in Ocala. There's no referral needed for an appointment. Call 873-7200, offering medical services for glaucoma management, including laser surgery to help lower your eye pressure and potentially reduce your dependency on eye drops. He also evaluates and treats diabetic retinopathy, one of the leading causes of blindness, with advanced imaging and laser procedure to help prevent vision loss. Dr. Hunt's office accepts most insurance and files claims for you. Call Dr. Hunt at 873-7200. That's 873-7200.
Hi, this is Brad. I want to take a moment to talk about a serious issue. In the next 5 years, the aviation industry is projected to have a shortage of commercial pilots. Now is the time to start training. Ocala Flying Club has started a scholarship for the youth of Marion County ages 17 to 24. The club will donate up to $4,000 towards a pilot's license. This will help get the student on their way to obtaining their commercial pilot license. If this sounds like something you would be interested in, or if you know someone that would be, please contact Ocala Aviation Services, 861-7484.
Last year, over $1 billion, that's a B with 9 zeros, was left on the table from taxes not done right. But thankfully, H&R Block tax preparers have over 100 hours of training to help you get your piece of the billion back. Come visit us and our friends at H&R Block this tax season at the Paddock Mall, Marion Oaks, and Triple Crown shopping centers to make sure you get your maximum refund. Don't forget to check with your favorite nonprofit for referral information where applicable.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingram, CEO of Gateway Bank, inviting you to drop by our main office on Silver Springs Boulevard every Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. for the Community Gazette, a 3-hour show focusing on our favorite community to live and work, Ocala, Marion County. Come join us with the voice of Ocala, Buddy Martin, in the new old-fashioned bank radio studio as we discuss a variety of interesting topics on the Community Gazette on WOCA, The Source.
Couldn't believe what I've become. Revolutionaries wait for my head on a silver plate, just a puppet on a...
Mark Emery's our guest during the break, talking about the various wild animals we see around here. And Mark, we're talking about some of the animals that are no longer indigenous and are coming now from other parts of the country, and have the fact that the Florida panther is rarely seen, although you said there was one spotted here recently, right?
Yeah, there's been a couple of, we call anecdotal evidence, and that is that it's not necessarily scientists that have seen it, but folks that have seen them at night, shined a light on one and sat and watched it for a minute, and it had a young one with it. So that was last summer, not this summer. But so, yeah, there's been a few seen around over the years, and they're big animals. They're very, very secretive, and in good range. Like I was saying, they eat about a deer a week. So
almost extinct?
We used to see none, so it may be actually on a tiny, tiny, tiny little return. Who knows? And it could just be stragglers that are wandering around from other populations that got a little bit too large and bumped them out.
A lot of people seeing coyotes around these parts.
Coyotes are real common now, and we've seen them almost in town on a lot of occasions. I've seen them just between here and going out to 200 out towards Stump Knockers. See them cross the road there several times, sit right close to town. So they're relatively common. They're, other than having rabies or something like that, they're not particularly dangerous or anything like that. But they're a different kind of threat to other wildlife, as far as eating wild turkey young and quail and rabbits and things like that. So,
take me through, just sort of. I don't want to say resume because that sounds like his job. But you started as a young boy here, exploring.
Yeah.
How you got into this at Silver Springs.
Right.
What took you to how you got in photography, and how you got into shooting for National Geo. Just tell me your story about how that happened, because I think a lot of people like to hear it.
It's a long, convoluted story, and
All right,
I'm
I
sure
wanna
I think
hear it.
most of us have one of those, and so I don't think mine's anything special. But I did get lucky as a young man to Ross Allen went to our church, and we knew him and his family, and a couple of local friends, Jerry O'Loughlin, who worked in the radio station at WTMC for a while years ago, helped me get on at Silver Springs. And I had already had a background in art and in painting, oil painting, but I was too darn slow. I couldn't keep up. I won some exhibitions and stuff. And
How old were you then?
14, 15, I was already competing and winning at that, but I was terribly slow. I wasn't good enough to be commercial or anything like that. So by the time I was in my 20s, that wasn't getting any better. I was too meticulous, and so photography was a good way to do that. And one of the guys, several of the people I worked with at Silver Springs at that time aren't as well known for photography, but a guy named Andy Kukulis worked under Ross for many, many years, was my direct boss. And Andy was a good photographer and would do reptiles and things like that. So I watched him a lot. And of course, Bruce Mozart was around at the time, but he was starting to, it was starting to change over. ABC had bought most of it out from the vendors and things like that, and the Ray family.
So what did you do for Ross?
Well, I milked snakes and wrestled gators 5 times a day.
So you're like a guide, and you worked in the park there?
Go through the whole show every day, do 5
So
shows
you
a
just
day.
grabbed the snake? Did you have to teach you anything? Or
Well, I'd already been catching them in the wild and been catching alligators since I was a little kid, too. So
What? Tell me about catching your first alligator as a kid.
there was a pond right behind the Wolfies at the time. It was
Behind Wolfies?
Yeah, there was a 7-foot gator living there when we were kids, and we roped him and threw him up on a dock, and I went home to get a Brownie camera to bring it back and take a picture, and my dad said, "Where are you going?" and
you
so
said-
he went with me, and he back then they just spanked both of you. He's spanking me and the other little boy, and I said, "No, Dad, he's not dead, and he's alive. We would just put him to sleep like we saw at Ross Allen's."
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So
You rubbed his belly?
yeah, so what you do is actually take a stick and rub it the other way against his scales, and he'll jump up and go back in the water. And Dad felt, so bad that he'd whip both of us for something we really hadn't killed this alligator. Back then it was $1,500 fine, and I think Dad was probably making $90 a week or something.
Yeah.
And so it was a huge deal. And so he took us out and bought us ice cream when we filmed that. So now every time
That was your first pay for your job, huh?
So every time we wrestle a gator good now, I usually have some ice cream right along with it. That's why I've got this little.
Well, so you put the gator to sleep.
Yeah.
And that was your first real conquest. And then so you go to work for Ross.
Yep.
And you are a guide, and you're milking. Now, describe milking snakes. I've seen it. I saw Ross do it many times. Hang the fangs over this little thing. Describe what that's like. Getting the poisons, spit them out.
Well, in the case of rattlesnakes, you'd think, well, you're just going to put a death grip on him and bring him up, and that's really the wrong thing to do. What you'd want to do is grab him, pin him, and don't pin him real hard. He's going to wiggle just like a worm or any.
So you
any
pin
other
his
animal.
head first?
Just pin it and get it under control, but you don't push him real hard. If he pulls out, you do it 2 or 3 times until he calms down, and you can pin him lightly. Then you go in and grab him. Eastern diamondbacks have a real weakness. Now, none of the other rattlesnakes have this, but the eastern has a little scale right over his head. So you can actually, Ross used to freehand them. We learned how to freehand them. You could go right down on top of them and grab that snake without even using a hook. Now, this is extremely
Well, they're blind?
crazy, stupid, but if you know exactly how to do it,
Yeah.
you can do it repeatedly and get away with it. Don't anyone out there try
Yeah.
this.
Don't
I don't
attempt
wanna-
this at home.
Yeah, exactly.
And you wonder why JJ nicknamed you the most interesting man in the world.
Well, I was not alone. There were other people doing this. I wouldn't have done it by
So you're
myself.
milking snakes. You hang their fang over a little
Right.
cup,
So
right?
what you're going to do is there's 2 grips. There was the Ross Allen grip, which is what I always had learned.
This
which
is like golf with the
it
Barton
is.
grip.
There's
you know?
2 grips.
It is.
The Ross Allen grip was a finger on either side of his head like this, and then you just propped his mouth open and put his fangs on the glass. The other way would be to put one finger on the top to steady the top of the head, and then you take your fingers, your thumb and your middle finger, go right behind his jawbone and press, and there's a gland right there, and it's just full of venom. And we really want to hurt these animals. It sounds crazy to be worried about a rattlesnake, but we would want to use one rattlesnake for several shows.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't milk him all the way out, and we just get a couple of drops out of him
Yeah.
in the show, and we bring him out and show people at close up how the whole thing works. There's this sheath that pulls back, exposes the fangs. All this happens during the strike. Sheaths pull back, strikes. pulls back the fangs, the sheaths come back over and it rocks back up into his mouth. And all the time you'll see that tongue go in and out. A lot of people are afraid of the tongue, and the tongue is nothing.
It's just the
it's
fangs.
just tasting everything. And he has in the roof of his mouth, he has something really interesting called a Jacobson's organ. And quite a few animals have different organs in the roof of their mouth. It's kind of surprising. They just found it in bears about 10 years ago. And he would take his tongue, bring it back, stick it up in that organ, and he could tell what's going on in this room. There's
Really?
mints over here.
Like
and there's
radar
that over there.
almost.
Yeah. He's got it pretty well squared away. What he needs to find for lunch is right where it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So
How many times did you get bit?
I got a little glance and blow one time, which we call a dry bite, which you didn't get any venom. And I got another one where I got a little bit of venom, and I had to go to the hospital for a bit. And
What do you do? They give you the anti?
well, they have an antivenom, yeah, and it's a real serious thing if you get bit badly. But I had one fang that delivered venom; the other one got stuck on my knuckle, and so the venom was on the surface. And one of the most important things, if you do get bit and you're out there, or your dog gets bit, is to wash the wound right away.
Oh, you wash it?
Absolutely, soap and water, fine. It won't hurt a thing. Is two things: one, it eats white blood cells, so your infections will start right at the wound. And the other thing it'll do is get trapped right there, and you can wash away half the venom. If you wash it out, if it's right at the surface, it just hit maybe your bone or something. You might have a drop or two. Well, 4 drops is a
Lethal?
dangerous bite. So
Really?
if you just cut that in half, and that's what we did. And so I was lucky. And so in my case, I got to the hospital. I didn't really want antivenom because they weren't checking to see if I was allergic. It was years ago, and they hadn't done that. And I knew I had to have that check. You can actually die from the antivenom.
Really?
Or you can have a serious complication. So
what do? You don't use it's a wives' tail to cut across.
no, the cutting and all that stuff.
stuff out
Even back
doesn't
then,
work.
they'd already stopped doing that. And if you think about it, if you put a hypodermic in your arm and injected something, could you suck that back out?
Probably not.
No, it's already in your system. It's already gone.
So wash it out.
Exactly. Just wash it real good and go find 911 and go get to the doctor. And don't drink.
Should you
Don't
kill the
have
snake
speeds
and
of
take it with you?
If you're in a remote area, yes, maybe. But you just want to make sure you identify it as best you can. And there's only 4 venomous snakes in this part of Florida, and you can get a guide and see what they are and go online and find them now. It's
The
very easy.
copperhead and the coral snake. And what else?
Yep, and then you have the moccasin, and we don't have copperheads this far down.
We don't?
No. So we have a little
Moccasin.
small rattlesnake,
Cottonmouth.
and the pygmy rattlesnake,
Pygmy
and then the
rattlesnake.
eastern diamondback, which is the biggest
Right.
one, and then the coral snake, of course, and then
Right.
the cottonmouth moccasin.
Right. So
Well, they're all poisonous to me, Mark. I know there's like 53 different snakes in this state. I'm going to hurt myself getting away from them.
Well, the funny thing about all this is once I got bit, I didn't like the hospital, and my parents were musicians, and everybody was moaning at night. They had wards back then, so it'd be 8 or 10, 15 people in your ward, and they'd be in C-sharp minor and keys I wasn't familiar with. So I called a buddy of mine, and we shipped in a bunch of pizzas to the nurses, and while that was all going on, I slipped out the bag and took the the little whatever that thing I needed to unplug it out of my arm and
IV?
I took the IV and plugged it up with a little piece of junk and
you were a little rascal, weren't you?
so they took me out to Drake Ranch and we went hog hunting, and I was the slowest guy in 10 counties, man. I was just like 78 record at 33 RPMs. I was slow trying to chase hogs, but I got out of that ward.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You get bit by a rattlesnake.
Yes, sir.
You have to be taken to the hospital. You're put in a hospital ward, and instead of doing what the doctors want you to do, you thought it was more important to go hog hunting.
You've been 20 before, 21, right?
I would have done exactly the same thing, probably.
So you went to Ross Allen, then you got interested in photography.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
And you started taking photos of what?
Everything. I walked the Appalachian Trail from somewhere.
What kind of camera?
Just junky cameras at first. Didn't have anything, but my grandfather had a good really old extended camera, probably from the early 1900s, and I used that some, and that would produce nice. And my dad had a Voigtlander, which is a nice little 35 millimeter camera. So those are the two that I had, and no long lenses at all. So everything was wide and scenic, or I had to get really close.
35 millimeter with a long lens, that was a gift, man.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
like that.
that's a monster. So what the actual really learning a lot about photography, I actually went to CFCC, and there was a gal there who studied with Ansel Adams.
Really?
And so I took her classes, and that's where I really said, oh, okay, there's more to this than just, point and shoot. I got to figure out how all this, parts of the camera work and how all the light is, how you use light in photography.
Isn't light such a key thing?
Oh, it's
so
absolutely.
critical.
It's the whole thing, yeah. Well, think about it. With no light at all, we wouldn't have any photography.
Yeah, and people out in Colorado who
People
shoot, they love to shoot late afternoon.
Oh
in
yeah,
Colorado.
early and late. It's beautiful here too. We've got great light here at certain places, and it's a good place to shoot. Here, the other thing is underwater, and so I was lucky enough to meet Jordy and his dad, and
Jordy Klein,
and his dad literally invented underwater cinematography. He worked with Jacques Cousteau to invent scuba. So I mean, they are some of the foremost folks in the world on it, and they lived across the lake from me. So I'd pop in a John boat and drive across the lake to work some days, or take a canoe across or whatever. Crazy life.
That's amazing. Now, how did you get? What was your first big hit with National Geo?
I really, with Jordy and those guys, what we at first did, wrote the soundtrack for the first shark shows for Discovery. Those were back in the mid 80s, 85 or 6 or something like that. I think probably first one was about 86.
Is it on YouTube?
Oh, maybe so.
What's it called?
The World of Sharks and Barracudas was the first one, and the second one was The Great Shark Hunt. And those both, we did Tracy Collins and I did the scores for those. Took about a month on each one of them to write the score, where now they don't give you that kind of time.
Yeah.
Picture-wise, the first one I did for National Geographic was called The Valley of 10,000 Smokes, and that took pretty much two summers for sure, and then another year before that to get going on it, and about 10 weeks of editing. And back then we all shot it on movie film. So we were going into a volcanic valley with 80 to 90-pound packs. We had to have specially designed packs to carry that much stuff and just stay for 20 days or so. And you'd come out with, cans of film stacked that high and hope that it all came out. There's in the season in Alaska, it happens fast and it never repeats itself. You can't go back and pick up a shot of a bass like you could in Florida 3 months later and it'll look the same. There, it's under snow or it's changed. So it was pretty hectic the first time working for Geographic and all.
You just can't repeat some shots, can you?
No, you really can't. You'll see things. There was one morning I was trying to get the other guy up with me, and he shot for Marty Stauffer for years for the Wild America show, and Marty's show sold out to PBS, so he was working with me, and he was a good cinematographer, but he had to have his coffee. Well, coffee time in Alaska is 4:30, 5 o'clock, and he did not want to get up, so I virtually got him out, propped him up on the side of the hill, and he shot volcanoes going off, 2 of them steaming straight up about a mile up into the sky. And the next 3 weeks it fogged in, and we didn't get that shot for 3 more weeks. So that's in the show. It made it, but if I hadn't dragged him out there, zipped him out of his sleeping bag, and helped him out there a little
It's almost, I hate to say it's random because there's a skill to it. There's a certain amount of random that goes into it.
When you see one, you go ahead and take it. You don't say, "Well, I'll probably come back and get that tomorrow."
Yeah.
It will not be there tomorrow. Not like
Mark
that.
Emery is our guest. He's a great photographer and songwriter and producer and what have you. And tell me about your Mark. What's happening in Silver Springs? You got some boat slips out there now, right?
Yeah. What I did was when they put up a concession, I just asked to see if I could put have a couple of slips in the back so that if I wanted to teach classes and take people out right on the water there, I could. And what we've done is hooked up with a group called Marine Expeditionary. They have these marine conservation expeditions, and what they do is they go into areas and try to save and salvage areas or make conservation films on those areas, but they get millionaires to pay for it. And I thought, well, what a wonderful model. I've always, when we do talks, we'll have people come up and go, I want to go with you and do what you do. And I said, we're not really set up to do that. And these are guys, one of them was the guy that invented the folding chair. When you get in front of a campfire, he's done. He's got 30, 40 million bucks, and his wife is wanting to get him out of the house and said, take him. He'll pay anything. And but when you're filming for Geographic, you've got stuff you have to get done. You have a shot list, and it's a business. It's something that has to be done in a period of time. And it's 1,900 pounds of gear. Sometimes we're backpacking up in the woods at multiple trips. It's not a party. So we this friend of mine made up a model and said, hey, we'll just put him on a boat and we'll get a 65-foot catamaran, go down to Belize, needs help. They're fishing aggregations of grouper down there and wiping them out. Why don't we just go down and make a film about that and do it, have these guys pay for it? So the first group we took down gave us $150,000 and said, okay, we'll get a really nice boat and get a cook and chef. And we filmed and taught them how to film like we film, show them what we were doing. And we'd have big discussions at night of what all went on. And one of them was a really bright guy on environmental stuff anyway. The other gal had made something for Microsoft, and she was done, and just great people, really nice, no problem, and had a great experience. And so they're actually building a film right now on something that would not make it on the air in the United States, but in Belize, they can use it to help their folks understand how to conserve different things. They're having trouble with the Chinese coming in, and this is something that they can unite on now and go, okay, we'll make a law that says you have to be this many miles offshore and blah, blah, blah. So pretty interesting what you can do, a different way to make films entirely. So we're hoping to do some of that right there at Silver Springs, is have people come in and go with us as we film, and also hopefully have filmmakers from other parts of the world come in here like we used to when we all started. There was films in here all the time.
So it's floating classroom. Talk about it. And
that'll be one of the parts of it. You bet. Uh-huh.
It's one of the things we're going to talk about after the break about your involvement in the Silver Springs International Film Festival. We get back, but first we get back, we're going to talk talk about the day you crashed in Alaska.
Okay.
Among the many ventures of Mark Emery. We'll stay tuned for that coming up next right here on the Voice of Ocala.
1370 AM, 96.3 FM. We're streaming live at WOCA.com. The Source.
Commercial Bank approval. Vehicle purchase process of fixed rate alone.
Don't pump iron, dump it.
Chris Spears here from Prestige Auto Sales with the health and beauty secret of the new year. The fastest way to look great in 2014 is to dump your old car. Lose that old car weight of a car you hate. Bring me your old car, and based on the sale price of the nicer, newer car you choose, I'll give you up to $5,114 off a nicer, newer car today. Look good right away in a nicer, newer car today and get up to $5,114 off.
Plus, R for the People credit approval process gets the lenders sweaty and ready to approve you, even if you've had credit problems in the past.
Kick off your old car diet today.
See you at Prestige.
But wait, get here fast. My old car diet program ends after we've helped 47 people drop the weight of the car they hate.
Visit Prestige Auto Sales or call 694-1234. Yes, 694-1234. See you at Prestige.
If you need a sign or a banner for your yard or your business or your campaign, I'd recommend you go to Signs Unlimited at 318 South Magnolia in Ocala. Screen printing, embroidery, digital graphics. Do what I did when we needed signs for the Save the Marion Theater Group. Go see Vic Buttermore at Signs Unlimited if you want quality work with a fast turnaround from somebody who is deeply committed to his community and always ready to assist you. There's a reason Vic's slogan is, "It's our business to make your business better." Sign up for Signs Unlimited. Call 732-7341 today.
You know what that anticipation feels like when you're about to open a gift? In a Box offers personalized gifts. Everything you'll need for that special occasion. In a Box. Holidays, birthdays, graduations, spa days, weddings, anniversaries, get-wells, and more. In a Box. Visit inaboxcelebrations.com and pick your theme. There's even a corporate option. In a Box creates the magic, and you'll be the rock star. Visit inaboxcelebrations.com. Partnered with Woodley Gardens.
Phoenix Promotional Solutions, your company supplier of banners, digital decals, yard signs, and magnetic signs. Where you give them approved artwork by noon, the next day by 4 p.m., you pick up your banners, digital decals, yard signs, and magnetic signs. Phoenix Promotional Solutions, 368-2404. That's 368-2404. Don't forget, they do vehicle wraps also. Phoenix Promotional Solutions, 368-2404.
Hi, Robin. You look tired.
I am. I've been running all over town.
Why? Why not drive?
I need to get the stupid document notarized.
Well, that's easy. You need personal service.
Duh. That's what I've been looking for.
You need to go see Mark at the Personal Service Center. He can notarize that for you, make copies, fax it wherever, or send it out in the mail. Heck, he can even scan it and email it for you.
Really? Where is he at?
2375 Northeast 25th Avenue, on the corner of Northeast 25th Avenue and 24th Street. You can call him at 789-6683.
Personal Service Center. Thanks, Larry. You've got a garden, and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
How good does it get?
Golf has long been considered to be sport's most prestigious game, and WOCA has your connection to everything in the golf world. Every first and third Thursday at 10 a.m., tune in for Let's Talk Golf with your host, PGA professional and teacher to the stars, Jim Beckett, and operations manager for the Links of Spruce Creek South, Darren Irwin, right here on The Source.
WOCA. New York, I say hello, my friends in LA, they don't know where I've been for the past few years or so.
Apologize to those of you who did not get a chance to hear us earlier, but Dr. Buddy said he could not be in today. He'll be in tomorrow. He wants to talk about relationships, how do you communicate, and how do you get started, and how so often in communications, when you start out, it's the way you present your position and your argument that causes things to deteriorate. So Dr. Buddy tomorrow will share that with you. We had special guests today and with Mark. A lot to talk about Mark Emery, so we'll do that right now and catch Dr. Buddy tomorrow. Mark Emery, Mark, I know there's many stories that you've told over the years, and I've written some and heard some and read some, but one of my favorites is a story about when you flew up to Alaska and found yourself hanging upside down in a tree in a crashed airplane. Is that about right?
There's parts of that are just dead on, yeah. I'd been filming for about a week with a gal who had the finalist for a Pulitzer Prize for photojournalism. Great photographer, still photographer, and I was setting up underwater scenes with her and setting up lights and stuff in a beautiful lake. And it was had 25 waterfalls all the way around the lake and a probably a mile bed of different kinds, 3 or 4 different kinds of berries. It just looked like paradise. But it was a canyon lake. It only had one entrance out of it and another one entrance in that was through up a creek. So what would happen is the wind will blow from the Pacific Ocean and come through there and make a Venturi effect. It'll just swirl all the way around that lake. And it didn't look like the lake was that rough when you came in with an airplane, but it would slam you down. So we got in and out of there. We got our filming done, and I just wanted my wife to see this place. So I grabbed Mary, and we talked this fella into going with us. And the pilot was going to pick someone up about 40 miles away or 50 miles away for on a moose pickup. So he's just going to drop us off. So he did not file a flight plan where we were going.
Oh, that's good.
And the other guys had downed their moose, so they're sitting there 50 miles away with a dead moose and probably a bear or two knowing where that was. So it made for an interesting weekend. So as we pulled up to this place, it's starting to chop a little bit, but we land in all
How many
kinds
feet
of
are
weather.
you right now about coming down?
We're about 1,500 feet up coming down into the canyon. And
What kind of plane?
It's a Beaver de Havilland that holds 7 people, and it has huge floats on it. The floats on a Beaver de Havilland, $200,000 just for the floats. Wow. So it's about a $500,000 plane. So as you're coming in, I was hanging out the window a little bit shooting caribou on the side of the mountain with the camera, still camera, yeah. And my wife says, you better buckle in. It's looking a little rough. I said, okay. So my wife right then saved my life. I was probably going to buckle in, but maybe not. Most of the time I do. At any rate, so I buckle in, and as we're coming in, I'm looking at it going, oh, man. This is Mary. As we touched the water, the plane, I was watching the speedometer, and it sped up. That doesn't happen. He's cutting power.
So it skipped.
Yeah, he started
like
skipping.
a rock.
He started going faster. And so what was happening is that wind was swirling behind him and shoving him into shore. So we were now at about 75 or 80 miles an hour. Landing speed can be 70, and then you start tapering down real quick. And we're coming out, we're going to have a rough landing. You belted in okay? And she said yes. And by then we hit. I mean, that quick.
Hit land.
It hit shore, and it was a little bit sloped like a shoreline in a lake would be, but behind it was a big wedge of tundra that was about 3 to 5 feet thick. And we hit that, and the plane just went straight up in the air like a rocket, and then it flipped backwards and came down upside down and crashed right on the tundra. And it was just a moment there. You just couldn't believe what had happened, and that split second after an accident where everything seemed like it was in slow motion, and then suddenly you're back into real time. And we checked each other. Everybody, okay, yeah, we're all right. And the pilot was great. He says, don't unbuckle right now. Wait a second, you're upside down. You can break your neck real easy if you just unbuckle. So that again was just a class move. And what happens to me is I've been in a bunch of things in the past where when something happens, you can compound whatever happens by goofing up. So I've learned to stop and not just jettison myself out of something. I said, what else could happen? What's going on here? And kind of take a second. And it doesn't mean I always do it, but this time I did. And they got out quickly. I couldn't get out. And I kickboxed years ago and was on the ESPN circuit and blah, blah. I can kick. I'm not a great boxer, but Lord knows you better look out for my leg.
One other thing about the world's most interesting man.
He was on the ESPN kickboxing.
All right, but anyway, so I kicked the back door all proud of myself, and it didn't move. And I went, holy heck, the latch on a beaver is an inch. It's nothing. I could kick that open. Anybody, and I kicked it 3 or 4 more times, it wasn't going. So I found another place I could get out, and they're yelling for me to get out because the fuel's starting to fill up. The wings are full of fuel on a Beaver de Havilland, and it was filling up the airplane. And I'm looking around and go, we can't do this because if weather's getting rough, we need all of our equipment. So I handed all the equipment out before I got out, and we got it all out. And that, again, was another thing that worked out really well, because that night it blew 70. And if we didn't have a tent, and as it was, the tent, I don't know what it blew, because it was literally rolling me up off the ground. I'm 230, and if I eat dinner, 235. And so it was just extremely nasty. We sent the tent into Eureka when we were done, and they said that they had seen Himalayan tents brought in that didn't look any worse than what we had been through. So they sent us a new tent for free. Well, the next day, they hadn't found us yet, and our ELT wasn't working very well. It's a canyon lake. It was actually just going straight up. A Russian satellite picked up the signal, called the Kodiak Coast Guard, and told them that they had somebody down. Of course, this guy hadn't filed a flight plan, so they didn't know who it was. And about 10 or 11, my wife and I saw this plane come way over top of us with one of those big discs over the top. And it was one of the planes from the Kodiak Coast Guard, famous Coast Guard bunch there, and they had spotted us, and we were able to signal. And an Alaska fishing license has all the signals to give an airplane. So we signaled them that we were okay, that we couldn't, pretty much what was going on. They left, and I said, they're going to bring the state troopers in, and we're done with our vacation. Let's just go up. We got tons of food. We're ready. Everything's fine. So she and I climbed a mountain and watched a couple hours later when the state trooper plane came in and picked up the other guy and drove him out. So.
Wow, what a story.
So we stayed for about 4 days, and they came out and picked us. I didn't want to take another flight right after that one anyway.
I guess. Mark, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Are you fearful of anything?
Oh yeah, well none of those things are planned. You don't go into.
But I mean, what are you
wake
scared?
up in the morning
What
and say, "I'm gonna
scares
do-"
you?
Man, people texting while they drive. That's crazy.
Oh my goodness!
Got a 2,000-pound machine running down the street and they're not looking. That's pretty bad.
Anything civilized?
Sure.
Silver Springs International Film Festival.
Yes, sir.
You're a part of that, and
you are too.
Yeah, I got a couple of minutes before we go to break and come back and play fake or factoid. But tell me, why you're involved in this and what you hope it's going to be.
Right. Well, there's several things here. We have a lot of talented kids here. We've had folks that are now doing other things. Ryan Robbins, for one, I think he won $10,000 for Vanguard High School. It's the best video in the United States. We could go on to probably some of the folks in the room here that have gone through that process and are competitive, but there's no jobs here for them. There's nothing here. We had at one time quite a community of film people here, and a lot of inventive and creative people that were on the outside edge of that as well. So that's a great thing to have in the area. Films come in, they spend a lot of money, and they leave. A wonderful asset to any community. And so I think it'd be something to build back again. The last 10 years have been horrible at Silver Springs. They didn't really call anybody or let anybody know that they could do this or do that at Silver Springs, and now we have a whole new group of folks in there, and there may be a chance to do something different with the state directly involved. You can talk right to the people who might give us permission or not.
And so what do you think will happen out there? What are you looking forward to?
I think it's going to be a gradual thing, buddy. It's going to take the state a while to rebuild the place. If you, as Tom was saying earlier, I went in there the first day and I was like, holy mackerel, everything's empty. And then the next time I went, there's a little tiny fudge shop and one place selling coffee. And so it's going to take a while. But if we can help that by bringing in film crews and people like that, there'll be a caterer for that film crew, and he'll look at it and go, hey, I can put a catering shop right here,
Sure.
and it just builds right off of it. So we'll start working on that real soon. I'm finishing up right now with 3 1-hours for National Geographic, so I'm dragging a little bit on the how you finish up a job. There's always little tail end things that you have to finish up on, but when those are done completely, that's all I'm going to be working towards is trying to build something up there at Silver Springs and trying to create.
And the film festival itself is going to bring movies and producers to
Exactly.
town. 37 countries now, 10 states. April 4th downtown. There's going to be lots of activities.
Right.
Panel discussions. You'll be a part of those.
Sure.
There'll be producers in there talking to young people. Chance to review the movies, and so that's fairly exciting. How big is this?
Well, I was surprised at how well they did. I know David Midget and some other folks have been involved at a wonderful level of getting us into major magazines to advertise this film festival. The folks, Tito and all that did the website, just did a bang-up job. And so I think we have a real chance of having something here that, we've been flying out every other year to Jackson Hole in Wyoming to go to one for Wildlife Film Festival, and there are 1,000 people there, and they spend a lot of money and they spend time there, and films get made right there because of them coming there and seeing what's there. People don't know we have the Grand Tetons here, but it's underwater.
Yeah,
You know, we have
good way of putting it.
Silver Springs and all these great spring systems, Rainbow River and all that right in one area. And people have been coming here for years, but they didn't really know how to take advantage of it.
We're excited. Let's take a break and come back with Mark Emery and force him to play Fake or Factoid with Tom Smith right here on the Voice of Ocala.
1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
On the next AM Ocala Live, Robin and I will be speaking to John Havoc. He's a researcher and historian, and he's written a book called The Ghosts of NASCAR, the Harlan Boys, and the first Daytona 500.
News Bites, the hottest news and current events are bite-sized.
Carol Ann Baldwin will be in the studio talking to you about your garden on her show, You've Got a Garden.
Then tune in for Joe Reichel on damage control. It's disaster restoration, your one-stop solution for damage recovery services.
And then Laura Dion Jones is coming on. She's a pro-health activist, a certified corporate wellness coach, a television and radio host, and she's got a book called Commit to Get Fit. Find the secret to your own true and everlasting weight loss.
John P. Davidson is the author of the cover story of the January 2014 issue of Harper Magazine. He's a journalist, a contributor to GQ, Fortune, Elle, and Mirabella. He's written a book called The Obedient Assassin, a novel of suspense based on a true story.
All of that plus fun with Joe on the next AM Ocala Live right here on The Source, WOCA 96.3 FM.
1370 AM.
Look who just walked in the room, Joel Wiesner from What's Up Ocala. Hey, Joel, I'm looking for something to do this weekend. You got any ideas?
Absolutely. Check out our event calendar online at www.whatsupocala.com, and there is plenty of events there for you. Daily news updates to event reviews and magazine articles.
Really?
We've organized it all in one place online for you to cut through all of the hassle of finding something to do this weekend. We have a daily event calendar, a bi-monthly magazine, and we also do daily news articles.
All right, Joel, that's perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah, whatsupocala.com.
The Usual Suspects Jazz Quartet will be in Arthur's Bistro at the Hilton Hotel on February 1st from 6:30 till 9:30 p.m. And then on February 15th, Arthur's Bistro will be having a Gala Valentine show with the Usual Suspects featuring guest vocalist Mark Raich from 6:30 till 9:30 p.m. for your dining, dancing, and listening pleasure. Based on previous performance, we recommend that you make a reservation for this show. Call 352-390-1515 for the Usual Suspects Jazz Quartet.
Lay underneath the harvest moon and do all the things that lovers do, just me and you. Just as free.
A couple minutes ago with Mark Emery here on the Voice of Ocala. Before we jump into this Fake or Factoid game, this is extremely dangerous, by the way. And so just be careful. Yeah, you're a man of danger, but this might be a little pushing the envelope. How can people ask me all the time, well, how do I get a hold of this guy, Mark Emery? I'd like to talk to him, or well, I'd like to learn more about his classes or teaching. What's the best way to reach you?
It's easy. You can go online and just look for Mark Emery Films, and there's a website. It says Contact Us. Hit that, and that's our email.
Okay, so it's Emery for folks who don't know.
Emery, yeah. And so if you're looking online, there's one other trick deal. There's a guy spelled Marc who has they did a film about him, about marijuana for National Geographic.
That would not be you.
That's not me.
There's several similarities, but not all.
No, I'm the most boring guy. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs.
I'm saying several similar. You did make movies, so your name was Mark, but with a K.
Yeah. So I get razzed by the BBC guys. Mark, I see you have an extracurricular activity now.
All right, let's play the music, start the game. We have 5 fake or factoids. You respond by saying fake or factoid. I think we've got Tom and Mark, and I believe...
Yeah, we'll go.
Austin's in.
Okay. Here we go. We only got room for 3. Sorry,
Doesn't
Josh.
matter.
Here we go.
They're both going to get
Number
whipped
1,
anyway.
Chocolate is helpful in memory recall.
Fact.
Fact.
I'll say fact, too.
3 facts. Nobody wants to change their answer.
I'll change it. Fake.
Go fake. Good decision. It's fake. There you go. There's 2 misses and 1 right. Okay, number 2. The inventor of the chocolate chip cookie sold the idea to Nestle Toll House in return for a lifetime supply of chocolate.
Fact.
I'll say fake.
Yeah, I'm going with fake on that one.
It's fact, and Austin's up 2-0. You got 2 misses. Austin's killing you. Here's one Mark might get. Number 3. Snails can sleep for a full 3 years without eating.
I don't know that. I don't do much with snails. At a larval stage, I'd say that's probably true.
Yeah, I'll say fact.
I don't know.
Everybody's fact?
Yeah.
It is in fact. There you go. Correct. Just staying in the game. Number 4, it is against the law to sing off key in North Carolina.
Fact.
Someone has to go fake. I'll go fake.
It's fact.
Fact.
Fact? Mark's out. It's fact.
It's fact. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I lived in North Carolina for a while. It's one of the funny
Told
things.
you it was a dangerous crowd.
That is.
All right, number 5 between these two guys. Humans actually get goosebumps because of an evolutionary trait that made fur stand up to make animals look larger. Fact.
Fake.
Just for the heck of it.
I wouldn't say that reason. Say the reason again one more time.
This is just facts I've assimilated.
Okay.
Humans actually get goosebumps because of an evolutionary trait that made fur stand up to make animals look larger.
I'll go with that. I'll go that.
You go fake. You go fact analogy.
Fake.
You're fake? Fact. It's fact. So what's the score now?
I've missed 2. Austin's missed 1.
All right, here we go. Well, look at one. We lose 6 seconds of visual information every minute from blinking. So during a 150-minute movie, our eyes are shut for about 15 minutes.
Fact.
Fake.
I'll say fake on that one.
It's fact.
I lose.
That makes Austin the
All right,
winner.
so we just say fact all the time.
All right, one Baba's going to give you the number. Pick a number now. Termites cause up to blank $1 billion in damage per year.
8 billion.
8 billion?
8 billion.
8 billion?
20 billion.
20 billion?
I'll go in there with them. I'd say 10, 20. I'll just say
You
10.
say 10?
Yeah, let's go in between.
It's 5. Austin wins.
No, I said 8.
Oh, you said 8. Well, you win.
eight,
All right,
yeah.
all right. Austin overall winner, then.
Right.
Congratulations. Mark, thanks for playing. Appreciate it. All the best to you, and thanks for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Good to see you. Mark Emery, the world's most interesting man.
But very bad at factoid.
Finally found something he can't do. Kickbox, plays music.
Yeah, give him a second. He'll get good at it.
We'll get you on a rematch. We'll get a rematch going. Thank you, Mark. Mark Emery. Stay tuned. Buddy Sports Page coming up next. Super Bowl. Football is a physical game. This just in. The Broncos are soft. The Seahawks are stone. Coming up next, we'll talk about it right here on Buddy Sports Page.
1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
Hello, I'm Dawn Lovell, lead event designer and owner at Party Time Rentals. Have you ever wondered what it takes to make an event spectacular? Well, look no further. It's what we do every day. Whether you're hosting an intimate dinner for 10 or a gala for thousands, at Party Time Rentals, we find just the right style and elegance to make your event a success. Our extensive inventory of the finest in chandeliers, tents, crystal, china, and specialty items is featured in our fabulous showroom. Stop by and say hello. It's a great way to get ideas for an event and experience for yourself how you can make your party time special.
Party Time Rentals, located on Southwest 10th Street, just off Route 200 in Ocala, and off Southwest 34th Street in Gainesville. For more information, call 352-629-8858. That's 352-629-8858. The party begins at Party Time.
Hi, this is Buddy Martin. If you have an award or a trophy in your house, there's more than a good chance it came from BJ Trophies Gifts and Awards. At BJ Trophies, Floyd Hirschberger and his staff have a lot more than just trophies. Among the items they specialize in are donor recognition walls and trees, personalized